What's the status of Kevin Durant right now? Well, it's one that has evolved for lack of a better term, because he and his fellow teammate in Kyrie Irving have been playing very dangerous games in the offseason. And it had nothing to do with actually playing on the court. Rather, both of them have been apparently trying to get out of the Brooklyn Nets, despite both of them already having deals in place with them, of which both of them signed those deals in the past year. This caused a lot of things to happen in the NBA, and yet, when all was said and done, we're right back to where we started. Defeat? Kevin Durant lost. That's the takeaway from the statement Tuesday from the Brooklyn Nets announcing that the organization and its disgruntled superstar have agreed to move forward with our partnership after a meeting in Los Angeles between the two sides. This is the partnership that, just a few weeks ago, Durant demanded be dissolved so that he could be sent to the team of his choosing. It was a meeting that featured the owner, Joe Tsai, and the two men Durant had demanded be fired if he were to stay: head coach Steve Nash and general manager Sean Marks. Now, the would-be divorcees claim they are focusing on basketball with one collective goal in mind: build a lasting franchise to bring a championship to Brooklyn. That's a breathtaking come-down for Durant and a seismic shift from the normal course of things when NBA superstars make demands, no matter how far-fetched they seem at the time. Chaos and confusion. Perhaps two of the most glaring examples of player power run amok were near and dear enough to the Nets that they'd finally had enough, for themselves and, perhaps now, in a shift of power in the NBA at large. First, it was James Harden wanting out of Houston, and then, ironically, out of Brooklyn, eventually landing in Philly. And secondly, but connected, it was Ben Simmons refusing to play for the Sixers and heading to Brooklyn, where he still hasn't played a single minute of basketball. Both players got what they wanted. So is nearly every other superstar when unhappy. A list at one time or another that has included Anthony Davis, Chris Paul, Jimmy Butler, Kawhi Leonard, and others. Now there's a precedent for teams who want to wrestle back some of the upper hand. A move made possible largely by the ham-fisted way KD went about things. Power is a formidable weapon when wielded wisely. For if you don't know how to manage it, you can find it suddenly in someone else's hands. Back when this mess first unfolded in July with Durant's first now failed ultimatum, we argued that the Nets, for a variety of reasons, should simply tell him no. That's as true now as it was then, but Durant sure made it easy for Brooklyn to do so. This is a world-class player with 4 years left on his contract, one who is always much less likely than Simmons to miss time because, as anyone in the NBA will tell you, Durant loves to hoop. It's a passion, a commendable and key component of his all-time greatness, and he was never likely to willingly miss time for the game he loves. This was the first point in the Nets' favor. It also helped that the Kyrie Irving debacle meant the Nets would always look to resolve the Durant situation first and, as important, demand a sizable return to disassemble a team with the lofty expectations that come with the Durant-Kyrie pairing. This wasn't some squad with a lone superstar and no real championship path forward, as with, say, the Denver Nuggets team Carmelo Anthony forced his way out of a decade ago. The Nets were a contender, at least on paper, and that meant Marks had to get the right return to save his own job. Sometimes, when you have no choice, you have a strange kind of freedom. That's the spot the Nets GM found himself in. All of this was lost on Durant when he unwisely went to London and told Tsai that the owner had to choose between him and Nash and Marks. Here's a good rule to live by. Don't try to strong-arm billionaires. The bad play. Then, still failing to read the situation accurately, Durant or those around him clearly leaked the ultimatum, trying to put pressure on Tsai to bend to his will. A second rule to live by, closely linked to the first: don't then try to pressure those billionaires publicly after the private strong-arm tactic failed. Now, it is true both sides still get something out of this other than the make-believe we're all in this together farce they're trying to sell. While Durant could still be a net this season, that's not a lock, and each side could win something from the other in this arrangement. This statement is a perfect way for Brooklyn to tell the Grizzlies, Celtics, Suns, Heat, and any other potential suitor who were dreaming of a KD acquisition that the price is the price. Brooklyn has leveraged those teams publicly and strongly, with the best tool at getting the deal for Durant they want: the thread he'll stay. Durant gets something as well. He gets to hoop. He gets to gear up for an NBA season, most likely with the Nets, but maybe still elsewhere. with a less distracting training camp and a clear focus on basketball being the keys to having a solid start. He loves the game and he gets to keep playing it, and that's something. But don't let the news obscure the fact that Durant lost the very first public fight he started in the most public of ways. The coach he demanded be fired will still be his coach. The GM he demanded be fired is still in charge. The team he refused to be a part of, for now, still retains his services. And the team owner he looked to muscle showed him just what cutthroat strength looks like. Kyrie's situation. Adding to all of this madness, of course, is that of Kyrie Irving, who no doubt is loving the extra spotlight that is being heaped upon him because, at this point, why wouldn't he? Never forget that it was Kyrie who asked for the trade before KD did, and it was he that changed course first and signed his player option for the upcoming season, which confused the heck out of everyone given that just days before people were wondering where he'd end up. In fact, even after signing the extension, he was still being shopped around by the Nets, with people even saying that he was very likely to go and end up with the Los Angeles Lakers and his old friend in LeBron if things went certain ways. Another thing to not forget is that Kyrie Irving didn't play as much as people might remember. He was an anti-vaxxer and was very loud about it. But after what happened in 2020 and 2021 in the NBA via the pandemic, the league adhered to not just their own rules, but the rules of the various states the players were in. Many of which said that if you didn't have the vaccine in you, you couldn't play. One of those states was New York. Oops. So yeah, when he eventually came back, he could only play certain games in certain places. To the point where, believe it or not, New York caved and amended the rules so that Kyrie could do home games again. How classy. Yet, he too is likely staying in Brooklyn. Which makes us wonder what the point of all this was. The Nets' chances. So, given all that has happened with the Nets, do we honestly think they have a chance at winning the NBA title this upcoming season? Ironically, the answer is yes. They have a chance. But the question is more about whether they'll squander that chance like they have in recent seasons. The Nets have been projected for the last 2 years to be major contenders, and it never works out that way. Plus, with injuries that have happened to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, as well as the chemistry and other issues that may pop up, you'd have to have a lot of faith in them to say that this team is going right to the finals now that they have their stars locked up. So what do you think? What do you think of this look at Kevin Durant, what has happened with the Brooklyn Nets, and why this season is already off to a rough start for them? Do you think what Durant did will affect his on-court play given all he tried to get done? What about Kyrie Irving? Will he be able to actually help the team despite all the drama he's caused in the last year? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time on the channel.